IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach Podcast, the bite-sized podcast filled with quick and easy actionable habits. Remember, great habits create that awesome life. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today's fun fact of the day has to do with electric guitars. Did you know that the first electric guitar was invented in the 1930s and it was nicknamed the frying pan because it was round in shape and had a long neck, hence looked like a frying pan. Now, what is interesting about the electric guitar is that during the 1930s and 40s, it was mainly the jazz and the blues musicians that had adopted this into their music. The rock genre did not start using it till much later, and many believe that the invention of the electric guitar to be one of the most influential musical innovations ever. And this is because it spurred so many new kinds of musical instruments and new genres of music altogether. The electric guitar solos of some of our favorite songs still linger in our minds as we move our fingers along and try to imitate them. There is one aspect of the electric guitar that has always baffled me, and it's this thing called feedback. This is when you hear the guitar screaming, and for the longest time, it sounded like this dude on stage had made a mistake, until I heard one of the artists master this use of feedback, and he continued to play the whole song using it. Basically, what happens is that the guitar is placed next to the speaker. The volume is turned up so the speaker begins to move a lot of air. The air in turn moves the strings of the guitar, making the guitar continue to play, and it forms a loop. The speaker plays the guitar plays the speaker. Some artists master this technique by placing stickers on the floor with regards to where they should be standing to get what kind of note from the speaker. Now, what I find the most interesting about this feedback is that it forms a loop. The guitar has to enter the zone of the speaker and literally ask for the feedback. And once the process begins, it continues and you can make beautiful music. Now, in our lives, feedback is not seen as a loop. Feedback is just something that someone tells us, or more often than not, forces down our throats. And this is probably because it started back in school when the teacher would publicly share our feedback with the whole class, sometimes to an embarrassing degree. And these moments stop us from liking the concept of feedback. However, feedback is essential because without it, we do not know how to improve. We do not know the changes that are needed in order to make things better. The problem is that we do not know how to ask for it, and more importantly, how to continue asking for it. You see, the feedback loop only works if you keep asking for more and receiving it. Very often, when feedback is given, it is feedback that we did not ask for, and it is given by people we do not want feedback from. It is very random, and often the person giving the feedback is useless at giving it. And these are the reasons why we hate receiving feedback. Instead, we have to become proactive in feedback loop. We have to learn to ask for it from the right kind of people. And the right kind of people are those who have some experience with what we are trying to achieve. The right kind of people are the consumers that you're trying to reach. For example, my podcast, the right people are the hardcore listeners like you. The right people are those who've been making podcasts for the last 10 years. The wrong people are those that have just heard my podcast for 5 minutes, or that auntie at a wedding, or that all knowing uncle who just wants to give some gyan, random advice. So identify the right people and then ask them for actionable feedback. Do not ask, so what did you think of the podcast? Or did you like the podcast? Because you will get feedback that you have no idea what to do with. What do you do with it was good, beta, it was bad? How do you use that feedback? Instead, ask these 3 questions. Give me 3 things you liked about the podcast. Then ask, tell me 3 things you did not like about the podcast. And then finally ask, how can I improve the podcast? This way, the feedback you receive is actionable feedback. So your super simple habit to grow starts by asking for feedback. You do this by identifying the right person to give you feedback and then learning to ask these 3 specific questions. 3 things you liked, 3 things you disliked, and how can I improve? Do this often and regularly, and you will see yourself grow. Just like the guitar player who knows how to make beautiful music using the speaker and its feedback, so can you become an artist in getting or receiving feedback. Usually in a podcast, it's me who speaks to you and you who listens. But I've been seeing your comments and it's time. It's me listening to you. Following the overwhelming success of this podcast, the good folks at IVM Podcast Network have decided to come up with a Kannada adaptation of the show for those who prefer listening to it in that language. Do make sure you let your Kannada speaking friends know about this as well. So start these habits and share with us your progress using the hashtag #TheHabitCoach. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome180.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Think Fast, Varun and Suchita talk to Shefali Bhatt. She's the tech and culture reporter from The Mint. She gives her views on meme culture, the creator economy, and other internet trends. Check out our new podcast on parenting, Big Talk About Tiny Humans. In the first episode, hosts Devi Shobha and Meghna stress on the importance of eating together as a family. What are the current trends amongst global investors? Viraj Nanda, co-founder of Globalize, tells Anupam all about it on Paisa Vaisa. The Simplified Gang decode all the groundbreaking things that NASA's new James Webb Telescope can do. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk discuss the recent Quad Summit that PM Modi was a part of. And on the Filter Coffee podcast, Karthik asks Devaya Bopanna about starting India's first DAO. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And also remember, you can check out a lot of our stuff on YouTube. Go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube and you'll get a list of all the various channels that we do have. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Do you wonder why China does the things that it does? Or want to know how we could improve online privacy? Or perhaps you're thinking about how we can kickstart India's economy? If you'd like to search for the answers to such questions, check out All Things Policy, a daily public policy podcast that covers everything from employment figures to aircraft carriers. Tune in from Monday to Friday for new episodes and fresh takes.